Hello and welcome to Work Inspired. I'm your host, George Lucas Pfeiffer. On today's episode, we've got a very special guest, Ellina Shinnick, the Chief Marketing Officer for Hub International, one of the largest insurance brokerages in the world. She's here to talk about her success, her team, and how she's navigating the many opportunities and challenges in this quickly changing digital world. Work Inspired starts right now. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have this conversation, especially in person, and excited to learn about you and about what the team at Hub is doing.
Terrific. Thank you for having me.
So let's start by the question I ask every guest to kick off each episode. Tell me your professional story.
I started my career in an unexpected way, I suppose, where you kind of imagine me ending up today. I started in advertising of television sales. So my first job was for an ABC affiliate in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was actually a terrific job. I was in sales. I honed my cold calling skills. And I think every young professional should have a stint in sales and dial and hear no and hone their pitch. It was a great learning experience because, coming out of that, you build resiliency. What's the worst thing that can happen when you ask? Somebody says no, you move on. But what's the best thing that can happen? They say yes. And you really learn how to refine your story and to be creative and to stand out. So I did that for a number of years, and then really kind of the digital landscape started to percolate and become more relevant in marketing and sales and in the world at large. So I took a position in what at that time was called integrated marketing. And effectively that was not just selling advertising sales traditionally through the network, but also on the website. And I had just a natural kind of ease of moving into that channel. It was clear for me to understand the connection. It was clear for me to understand the buyer journey. I could tell that story easily and naturally, and I didn't have a huge learning curve. So in that role, what I learned that was most interesting to me was that I actually ended up leveraging a lot of marketing skills, even though I didn't necessarily realize that kind of by the book. When I was in front of clients, I was asking them about their business. How do they want to grow? What stories do they want to tell about their value proposition? What is unique about them to their customers? And then I would come back and I would share ideas. Well, here are ways you can develop digital ads to show your business value proposition. And then people will at that time, click through to your website and buy your product or, do the whatever the call to action is. And so I did that for a number of years, and I just realized I have something there. I have a talent for this. I can quickly understand business strategies, and I can turn those into stories, into value propositions, and kind of bring those skills together, which really is this optimal partnership of sales and marketing. So I did that, and then I was like, well, there's a big world out there that I want to experience. I went on to the Ohio State University. I received my MBA in marketing, and from there I took a role with LexisNexis on the legal side and what was really a product marketing role. So I got a lot of experience in all aspects of product marketing: segmentation, messaging, demand generation. And even though it was primarily digital, I was also enabling the sales team on the ground. So already I was in this world of omni-channel many years ago, honing that skill, honing those strategies, figuring out how to build what we today call brand, demand, and conversion and retention. We were doing all of that then with the channels that were available to us. So I did that for a number of years, grew my team, grew my experience, continued to be really interested in digital and wanted to go deeper in that particular domain. While at Lexis, I was raising my hand for projects looking at analytics, thinking about SEO optimization, reading up on, at that time, all the things that Rand Fishkin was saying, for those who are SEO kind of geeks listening to this podcast. And so I had an opportunity to move into consulting. I took a role with Accenture on their digital team, focused a lot on optimization and providing consulting services to clients, traveled for a number of years, saw many different industries, great opportunity for me to see what I liked, what kind of industries I wasn't drawn to, different cultures, and experience the world of consulting, which, I think everyone is kind of goes through that at some point in their career. And then I took all of those experiences and moved over to Hub International. And I've been at Hub International for just shy of 9 years. And during my time at Hub, I've been able to pull all of those experiences and learnings and into use here to grow the team. When I joined in 2015, we were a team of about 12. Over this last 8-9 years, we've grown to over 100. Wow. And I've had an opportunity to build out the full center of excellence with all of the disciplines from digital, corporate communications, brand, content marketing, social media, demand functions, sponsorship functions. And it's been an incredibly exciting and an incredibly rewarding chapter thus far, building the brand, showing the art of the possible to the organization. But I made it my mission to show and prove that marketing is a business function and is a business partner that has expertise in the marketing domain. And we can do all of that with creativity, with passion, with energy. So I'm very kind of anti-conventional. This is how things are done and this is how they have to be. I'm inspired by a lot of different brands, a lot of different moments in time, pop culture aspects that are happening, because all of those have a role to play in how we go to market or how we bring our ideas to life. What I've really enjoyed is building the team, building out the discipline, having the freedom to do that with creativity, or what I like to say, some edge, an unexpected flavor, but also have a meaningful impact on the bottom line.
Yeah, it's interesting when we've had a number of CMOs and creative marketers on this podcast, and it's interesting to me, they come from in two different ways. One is they're creative and their technical skills are in that world, and then they learn the business side to get into a leadership role like yours. Sounds like you came in from the sales and the business side, and now you're layering in the creative and some of the, as your team grows, you're adding those in-house disciplines. How do you balance what you need to know versus what you hire or add to your team as a capability? Because in the digital space, there's so many different things that you can do. You just listed a number of them. And you talked about some of the things in your career that you focused on, like SEO and analytics and product marketing. But obviously, there's so much that is involved in a digital ecosystem or that a CMO has to look after. How do you make sure you're kind of knowledgeable to some extent about all things, but that you're not spending... it would be impossible to be an expert on all, right? So how do you balance that?
In my role, a big part of my job is continuous education. I can't be a credible leader who has the respect of colleagues and my team without making part of my job criteria, learning and spending time with vendors and partners. Certainly not an expert in everything, nor should I be, because that wouldn't be the best use of my time.
Right.
But I do spend a lot of time learning, trying, so that I can ask relevant questions, so that I can steer effectively. And that's important to me. The other part of your question is, when do you hire or outsource it? Kind of depends on sometimes speed to market. If we're trying to create a new tactic or a new campaign and leverage a new technology we don't have, but we need to do it quickly, then in those cases we'll outsource to a contractor or to an agency partner. And then if we determine that this is something we're going to be doing on a regular basis, then it makes more sense and it's probably more cost effective. And frankly, you get better ROI when you insource those capabilities. We saw that even with our demand gen part of our group. We had agency partners and the agencies were good and they were helping us drive results that were meaningful for the business and the ROI was there. But we understood that in order to be even better and faster, we have to own it. And so we insourced all of our lead gen capabilities, and we're seeing how that's continuing to produce even better results. Because look, when you're working with partners, they have an ROI. They're only going to give you so many hours, right? They're committed to a certain degree, and then they have to move on to others. And that's not really the case when things are insourced. So particularly on lead gen, I'm an advocate for in-house teams, but bringing in partners for thought leadership, for activating new ideas, learning, and then quickly pulling it in.
And one of the things, we'll talk about your report in a minute, but one of the things that stood out to me was the upskilling versus the hiring for a skill, and how much more cost effective it is to train your existing teams new skills. So that's kind of what you're talking about with the continuous learning and being proactive with enabling the team you've already got to be able to do more.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the only way to stay relevant. I hire people for skill, but also for aptitude and for passion. And those people get bored.
Yeah.
Our job isn't, to entertain, of course, but our job is to provide an environment that helps people evolve. So as long as they're doing kind of their role and performing and meeting those criteria, I'm happy to provide other opportunities to help them stretch, because that fresh perspective will make us even better.
Let's talk about Hub for a second. Obviously, you've been there now, you said 9 years. So it sounds like a place worth staying.
Yes.
Talk up to me a little bit about what makes Hub special, unique, a place where you want to spend almost a decade.
Sure. So we're a leading full-service insurance broker. We provide advisory and insurance products across property and casualty, benefits, retirement, and private client. And we have over 17,000 employees across the U.S. and Canada. It's a highly acquisitive organization, so we acquire many agencies every year. Our culture is incredibly special and a competitive advantage, because at the corporate level where I sit, I have an opportunity to engage with many new leaders who come on board, and invariably within the first 30 days of their kind of debrief of how did your first 30 days go, what were your takeaways, what were your learnings, invariably the first sentence out of anyone's kind of mouth is, wow, Hub is such a special place. It's such a unique culture.
You've got a unique position. You're on the leadership team, which we know culture kind of starts at the top, although there's subcultures, of course, but it's got to come from the leadership. Obviously, your role as a CMO is to look at the market and do external outbound marketing, right? How often do you look internal? You mentioned communications people on your team. Is any part of your role to help promote that great culture that you talk about, whether it's through internal communications or within the spaces that your employees work, or just brand in general? Do you think it's a CMO's role to play a part in strengthening and continuing to promote a work culture?
Absolutely. I partner really closely with our chief HR officer, who oversees talent. I oversee corporate communications, internal and external. So my team is instrumental in sharing the story and highlighting all of the work that's happening within the HR team and the investments that they're making to cultivate the culture. But I see marketing's role as positioning the brand for a number of different segments: our customers and consumers, our industry partners, and also prospective talent. All of the things we do on social media to highlight our people, all of the groups we have that we highlight, all of the communities we're a part of, our philanthropic efforts, all of those showcase our story of our culture. While that happens to sit on external channels, we know our employees are reading are following our handles as much as they are internally. So absolutely, I think it is critical for a CMO to play a role in helping shape and nurture the culture. And in different companies, their kind of span of control varies depending on the structure of the organization. In ours, I like the balance of partnering closely with our CHRO and things like our 25th anniversary campaign. We worked really closely on that, and that's important because we need the buy-in of the HR team, but our team is taking the lead on elevating the story, making it compelling both internally and externally through all of the ways that we can as experts in storytelling, digital distribution channels, and the like.
I think that's a great answer. We do workspaces, so we traditionally partner with facilities leaders, real estate leaders, COOs, CEOs. We've seen heads of human resource or people leaders at the table more than we've ever had before. And I think just like with a marketing role, it's so important because all of these efforts are for people, right? And I've always been a big proponent of digital advocacy and saying you got to have a strong brand. You need to be doing the right things with your brand. But if your people are passionate and can take that message to market, it's going to be so much more effective when they do that because people trust people. And those networks of your employees combined are so much greater than that of your core brand. A marketing team, especially a marketing leader, has a significant role in a workplace culture and how it's perceived and how talent's recruited and how people within the organization feel empowered to deliver that message.
Yep, absolutely.
What's the current way of working? Are you guys in a hybrid model right now? Are you mostly in person? What's it like currently at Hub?
Today we're in a distributed model.
Okay.
But we are in the office several days a week. Since 2020, we're no different than other organizations that we are more connected through digital channels. And it's also important to be more connected now in person too, right? You're seeing that kind of pendulum and the pros and cons of not being together, being together. So the pro is that we are using technology in the best way possible to connect with people faster than we ever did and to frankly meet people across the organization, different, sides of the country, our colleagues from the US and Canada are more connected than ever before. So that's certainly a positive outcome of what the pandemic forced us to do better. And now we're using that to be even stronger when we're coming in person as well. There's value in being together. Yeah. When you come out of group meetings, whether we're meeting centrally as business units, for example, if we have vertical practices, whether it's construction, transportation, or benefits practice, et cetera, those individuals are distributed across US and Canada, and then we'll get together quarterly and talk about strategy, results, opportunities. And you walk away from those meetings invigorated, excited, even more hopeful. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of the physical energy that is created by being together. The right answer is what's right for your organization. It's really a mix of being together while also offering flexibility.
Good answer, and that's what we're hearing from a lot of leaders. So you're on par.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the outlook that you recently launched for 2024. Talk about how you set that up and its impact on your market.
Sure. So the Outlook is our largest brand campaign, and we've been running this campaign in its current state. This will be its third year. The Outlook, the origins of it started, I would say, about 6 years ago. So the kind of 30-second context is that about 6 years ago, we were writing blogs, and every year for our industry verticals, we would write a discrete blog kicking off the following year. What are some of the top trends and implications that our customers should be aware of? And in the world of risk management and advisory and insurance, that is our role, to help protect what matters most, to be ahead of these issues for our clients so they don't have to think about it. Those were some of our most highly read blogs. As I was reviewing the results of the traffic and the engagement, a light bulb moment went off. And we've now done this for 3 years. Every year we optimize the experience. Every year we go bigger with the content strategy. This particular year, what was very wonderful to see was something we wanted to do was to execute our proprietary executive survey. We surveyed 1,100 participants, 900 B2B decision makers who represent various verticals that we work with, industry verticals as well as department verticals, CFOs, CEOs, CHROs, risk officers, so individuals in our buying decision group, cutting across transportation, construction, real estate, all of our industry verticals in the US and Canada. And we also surveyed 200 private client, high net worth individuals and their centers of influence. And what was really kind of compelling and the aha for Outlook 2024 is this idea that many of our survey respondents are operating in a state of perceived preparedness. And so what does that mean? That means that they have exciting and lofty aspirations, whether they're going to expand internationally, launch new products, add new offices, go to different segments. But when we asked them about their risk mitigation strategies, there were some holes in their portfolio.
Yeah, it's well done.
Thank you.
I was looking at it again this morning, and it's not just a list. There's an action plan. There's a call to action, and I think the timing's good on it too. At least in our industry, we've seen a greater appetite for peer-to-peer sharing and people wanting to know what their industry is doing than pre-pandemic for sure.
Exactly.
You say it's the largest campaign you run each year, which I think makes sense. How long can you benefit from an Outlook 2024 campaign into the year?
Yeah, great question. It's really relevant till about end of February, really. And then we have offshoots in the portfolio. So we have quarterly rate guides and other things that are part of Outlook that are additional touch points. When I say it's the largest from an intellectual kind of capacity perspective, we start months in advance. And we really think about orchestrating the content. There's a lot of content. There's 14 reports that we complete. So that's kind of really what I mean. And also our investment in the promotion and the distribution. But throughout the year, we stay relevant with, as I mentioned, kind of offshoots that are part of what I call the Outlook portfolio.
You also have focused a lot on the use of it and the distribution. And I come from a video background, and I always found it fascinating how some folks would focus so much on the production, but so little on the actual usage of it. They go right on to the next video or movie that they were making, and almost the who's seeing it and how is it getting used was an afterthought. So I think that's not just half the battle. It should be a significant more than half of is how are you going to get that in the hands of the right people? It's on your website as a gated, so you're getting leads through the website. You talked about paid media. So it's very good. You're not the only one doing a Outlook report, but the way that you set it up and the information inside of it, I thought was very value adding and relevant.
Thank you. And I will just say, I appreciate you double clicking on that point, if you will, because it's my goal to ensure that marketing is a business partner that supports the business through our expertise in the marketing discipline. And that's why I focus equally as much on how the distribution, not just the valuable content. Because to your point, then the equation isn't complete.
Right.
We, as a marketing organization, need to establish the brand, build the reputation. We want to be part of the decision set or consideration set. But we are equally as invested in enabling our advisors in the field. And they need to understand it. They need to believe in it. They need to know how to use it. So we spend a lot of time internally validating that this content is going to truly help them sell. If that answer isn't there, then it's just a beautiful piece of content.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about marketing initiatives, obviously you just released this. We're into February, so I'm sure your team is actively involved in making sure it's used as much as it can. But what are some of the other things that you as a leader, especially in the digital space where there's so much new opportunity, what are some of the things that you're focused on right now or looking at as potential future focuses?
Sure. So I would say digital has been a part of our portfolio, my entire career, and is not really new as a distribution channel at Hub. I see digital as an enabler and a channel. It's another, in some cases, it's another watering hole. In some cases, it's a way to create different pieces of content and repackage it from written word to video to social, etc. Our brand and our value proposition, it's advisory. And I think about where are all the watering holes and how do we connect with our customers. Ultimately, in the middle market, upper middle market part of our segment, we need to create the connection with our advisors. And that connection can happen over a digital screen. That connection can happen in person. So I continue to focus on where are our customers? Where do they want to find the information? Who do they trust? And how am I effectively positioned there and creating connection and trust and creating those opportunities for our advisors to be in front of customers or prospects? So with respect to digital, for us, video is still critical. Whether that video is in the form of a webinar, whether that video is in the form of a short form kind of industry hot take of a trend featuring our leaders on social media, or some combination of thereof, whether it's a summary of a big sponsorship we did and we're talking to customers and getting their testimonials. So I'm still really interested in how we leverage video to continue to showcase our people. So at the end of the day, after the brand, a customer's buying from an advisor who they're sitting across the table from, and they need to trust that advisor, and we need to continue to showcase them. So video is still key to us, and using it in all of the right formats to distribute content and to highlight all of our experts across the organization. And then I would just say, look, you can't have any kind of conversation today without talking about AI, of course.
That's what I was just going to bring up.
It's got a lot of opportunity, but it comes with a lot of responsibility. I really believe that it's an accelerator for bad ideas, and it's also an accelerator for very good ideas. As a team, we're already looking at point solutions for specific writing, whether it's meta tags for SEO, whether it's kind of helping us elevate some thoughts or accelerate some thoughts, or kind of just get that like 2% kind of idea push that we're maybe stuck on. We're looking at some creative executions through Adobe, but, again, using that sparingly. In our business and the complexity of our business and the regulated landscape, I'm not a proponent of simply just churning out content at speed. I don't think it's good. And you're just going to sound like everyone else, and it's going to be very clear. So we are really thinking about how to use AI, keep a pulse on where the technology is going and how it's relevant for us, but not just to say throw it into ChatGPT and create 20 LinkedIn posts for us. What I will say I'm really excited about, though, is when the AI model can actually be a thought partner. I was looking at use cases where you're asking the bot to help you assess landing pages and provide optimization opportunities, or provide different images based on its insight, or looking at market fit examples. Again, it's all dependent on the type of information you're feeding it and what it's learning on, but the speed at which it's improving is just incredible. And I'm sure you saw last night's launch of AI Sora, the video platform. Look, the quality is pretty incredible, but wow, does that require a lot of responsibility? And what are all the things that it opens up? So here's the thing. Can't have your head in the sand. You have to embrace it. You have to be thoughtful. I don't quite subscribe to this opinion that, just do it today and you can produce X deliverable that you want in 5 minutes and you're fast and you're out the door. That deliverable is not going to be great. You still need a human in the loop. You have to be in there daily learning, because every day gets better, and we're already seeing ways that it's improving our deliverables and making us more efficient. So I'm optimistic, and it's going to be a part of our portfolio. I mean, it is a game changer, and you have to embrace it, but you have to be thoughtful about it.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about, you had a statistic in your report, and I think I can't remember the actual number. It was 20-some% of people said they're concerned about AI, which was lower than I think you and I was surprised by the number. And then a few weeks ago, there was that story about the deep fake Zoom call and the $25 million they got. So I think there's an opportunity in your industry to insure against something like that. But also, you just talked about the value of the relationship and trust and the person to person. And I think that artificial intelligence is just going to put that at a premium, because it's going to be very difficult to establish true trust in the digital space when there's so much artificial out there. So I think that's interesting. And then what you said about a thought partner, I think we'll soon be at a place where we can utilize AI through the lens of our brand at an organization, or possibly and hopefully through the lens of ourselves.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be where it's real cool. Yeah.
But and it's still going to require quite a bit of training, but it's getting there. But I totally agree. In our industry, it's about the relationship and the trust.
It is coming so quickly, and almost too quickly in some cases, where we got to put guardrails up, and look at the risk or the legality of utilizing some of the technology. Well, I'm super excited about what it enables our teams to be able to do.
Absolutely. But it requires a lot of responsibility. And it's funny, coming here this morning, yesterday I was on a training about ways to use the multimodal function of ChatGPT, right? And there were 5 different steps to go from this copy to ultimately in about 30 minutes, using 5 different steps and 2 different connections, you go from a copy to a full-on video with a voiceover, multimodal. Pretty cool. So that was at 9 a.m. in the morning on Thursday. On Thursday night at 9 p.m., I see the release of AI Sora. So the 5 steps I just learned about and was admittedly slightly kind of like, oh my gosh, now I have to learn 5 different, APIs. Yeah. At 9 p.m., I'm like, oh, okay, well, there goes that. I no longer need an API. I'm just going to prompt and it's going to give me a video. Now, of course, this is, I'm saying this for a fact, but the speed of change, it was in the span of a day. I woke up, I thought I needed to learn 5 steps. That evening, a completely new application that smooths things out. And it's exciting, but it's scary.
It is. I had the exact same experience. I was looking into the modes and it's almost like, oh, well, I don't want to learn a new programming language, but you wait a few days and you won't have to,
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about the year ahead. What's something you're looking forward to? It can be professional or personal.
I'm excited to continue to build professionally, to really continue to elevate our brand, to continue to tell interesting stories that position our experts and our expertise in creative ways. I have a really strong team. I have passionate marketers. I have curious marketers, talented individuals. And so while, the majority of our conversation we focused on, let's just call it the technical aspect of the discipline, what brings me equally as much joy is seeing the team flourish and bringing them together and giving them opportunities to bring forward wild, unexpected ideas, but turn those into appropriate tactics to drive business results. So I'm really excited to see the talent on my team continue to rise and fulfill their own ambitions and drive business goals. Personally, I'm excited to travel, to be with my family, just kind of enjoy life and be grateful.
You've had a lot of success in your career so far. It sounds like you've got a lot ahead of you. But if you were retiring tomorrow, what's some words of wisdom that you'd leave for a predecessor or for someone on your team that was going to step into your shoes?
And you're right, I'm not retiring anytime soon, but here's some words of wisdom. I'd say a couple of things. Number 1, stay open-minded, stay curious, learn. Just because folks on your team may be younger or less experienced doesn't mean their ideas aren't excellent. So really get to know your people, know their superpowers, give them the opportunity to shine. It's good for you. It's good for the business. And that takes some time. It takes some emotional intelligence to not just say these things you're supposed to say as a leader, but to actually act them and live them. Be accountable to your team. When you're accountable to your team, they trust you and they respect you. I care a lot about how my team thinks and knows that I'm accountable to them and I have their best interest at heart. So that's really critical as a leader. Depending on where you are in your career, it's interesting you asked me about balance. Probably especially for very new leaders who are starting out, if you want to be excellent, you got to go deep. You got to be slightly obsessed with your craft. You have to really be passionate and live and breathe your discipline. And you have to live and breathe maybe a little bit in an obsessive way to ramp up and get that momentum behind you about how to be a leader until you kind of find your footing, find your voice, find who you are, who you want to be, who you want your team to see you as. And then you start to balance, but that goes back and forth. So, and build your network. Have a network of people who are going to keep you honest. I have people who tell me the truth and I get frustrated and, I think I did something amazing and they tell me what it is sometimes, but the truth is I hear it and that makes me better. Those would be a couple of the things I would share with leaders who are coming up.
Those are great and thought-provoking pieces of advice. So thank you. And thank you for all the insight you shared today.
Sure.
It's exciting anytime I get to talk to a marketing professional, but someone that's as accomplished as you is even more special. So thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to rate our show. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Work Inspired podcast so that you don't miss any of the incredible guests we have planned for upcoming episodes. We'll continue to find the best and brightest minds in business so that you can learn, grow, and succeed, and so that we can all work inspired. Work Inspired is brought to you by BOS, a leader in commercial working environments and a Hayworth best-in-class dealership. Experience our 360 approach and discover the team, tools, and techniques required to navigate the complexity of your next workspace at BOS.com. If you have ideas, feedback, or would like to be featured on our show, please email podcast@BOS.com. Thank you for listening. This has been a Workspace digital production. If you're interested in launching a podcast at your organization, please email info@workspace.digital for a free consultation.